Welcome to the 68th episode of I Wrote This News. Today is Tuesday, March 15, 2022. Here's the wind-up and the pitch. The news is headed right over your home plate. Story number 1, please don't feed the ego. Former President Donald Trump mocked Representative Nancy Mace at a rally in the Republican Congresswoman's home state of South Carolina for posting a video of herself in front of the former president's Trump Tower property in New York. Mr. Trump held a rally in Florence on Saturday night and decried the Republican freshman Congresswoman. Ms. Mace worked on the Trump 2016 campaign before she won her seat in South Carolina's 1st District in 2020. But Ms. Mace told CNN the day after the January 6th insurrection at the Capitol that, quote, his entire legacy was wiped out yesterday. In response, Trump endorsed Katie Arrington, a Republican primary challenger. Trump said, quote, she went to New York and stood in front of the magnificent Trump Tower. Has anyone ever heard of Trump Tower? And did a commercial insinuating that I was endorsing her. She's standing over in front of Trump Tower in New York. I'm saying, can you believe this? It was untruthful just like everything else she does. Ms. Arrington also made a speech before the former president took to the stage. She said, quote, I've been waiting a couple of weeks to see Big Daddy come home. So we have one candidate who is trying to imply that she has Trump's love and another who is calling the former president, quote, Big Daddy and telling us she's been waiting weeks for him to come home. Maybe we do get the government we deserve, but this seems like cruel and unusual punishment. Story number 2, does it count if that document is signed in crayon? Trump took out a $100 million mortgage on his, quote, magnificent Trump Tower in February, according to documents recorded by New York City's Department of Finance. The refinancing happened after Trump's former accounting firm Mazars dropped him as a client, warning future creditors that a decade's worth of his financial records, quote, should no longer be relied upon. The financing came from Axos, launched in 2000 as Bank of Internet USA, and the mortgage obligation was signed by Trump's son, Eric. So a virtual bank loans $100 million to a company with unreliable records signed by a family member who only 5 years ago was reported to have said, quote, we don't rely on American banks. We have all the funding we need out of Russia. We've got some guys that really love golf, and they're really invested in our programs. We just go there all the time. What could possibly go wrong? March 15th is the 74th day of the year in the Gregorian calendar. 291 days remain until the end of the year. In the Roman calendar, March 15th is also known as the Ides of March. The Romans did not number each day of a month from the first to the last day. Instead, they counted back from 3 fixed points of the month. The nones, which were the 5th or 7th, 9 days inclusive before the Ides. The Ides, the 13th for most months, but the 15th in March, May, July, in October, and the kalends, which is the first of the following month. Originally, the Ides were supposed to be determined by the full moon, reflecting the lunar origin of the Roman calendar. In the earliest calendar, the Ides of March would have been the first full moon of the new year. The Ides of each month were sacred to Jupiter, the Romans' supreme deity. The flame Diles, Jupiter's high priest, led the Ides sheep in procession along the Via Sacra to the Arx, where it was sacrificed. In addition to the monthly sacrifice, the Ides of March was also the occasion of the feast of Anna Perina, a goddess of the year whose festival originally concluded the ceremonies of the new year. The day was enthusiastically celebrated among the common people with picnics, drinking, and revelry. In modern times, the Ides of March is best known as the date on which Julius Caesar was assassinated in 44 BC. Caesar was stabbed to death at a meeting of the Senate. As many as 60 conspirators, led by Brutus and Cassius, were involved. According to Plutarch, a seer had warned that harm would come to Caesar on the Ides of March. On his way to the theater of Pompey, where he would be assassinated, Caesar passed the seer and joked, quote, well, the Ides of March are come, implying that the prophecy had not been fulfilled, to which the seer replied, quote, aye, they are come, but they are not gone. Julius Caesar was murdered later that day. The Ides of March. Now it's time for On This Date in History. On this date in 1783, in an emotional speech in Newburgh, New York, George Washington asks his officers not to support the Newburgh Conspiracy. The plea is successful and the threatened coup d'état never takes place. 1939, Germany occupies Czechoslovakia. 1965, President Lyndon B. Johnson, responding to the Selma crisis, tells U.S. Congress, we shall overcome, while advocating the Voting Rights Act. Celebrating birthdays today are actor Judd Hirsch, televangelist and rock song inspiration Jimmy Swaggart, Grateful Dead bassist Phil Lesh, materials engineer Carolyn Hansen, musician Sly Stone, actor Jimmy Baio, rocker Bret Michaels, musician Mark McGrath, actress Eva Longoria, actor will.i.am, and film director Catherine Brooks. Happy birthday to all of them, and if your birthday is today, a very happy birthday to you as well. By the way, if you or someone you know is having a birthday and would like us to announce it on the show, leave us a voice message or send an email. The links are in the show notes. Today's news was brought to us by The Independent, Newsweek, The Hill, and the website that keeps its ego in check, Wikipedia. If you have a comment or a question about anything you've heard today, or if you have a suggestion, please send us a note at IWTN, all one word, at thatradioshow.com. That email address one more time is IWTN, all one word, at thatradioshow.com.
One more thing, if this podcast sounds a little funny, that's because it's also an experiment. All of the vocals were generated using AI technology. Hopefully the show will sound different and better as the tech improves and as we improve at using it. I'm Bob Neese, hoping you have an amazing day. We'll get together again soon.